All right, welcome, welcome back. Welcome to Humpdays, everyone.
Today we have a very special episode. We are going to be talking all about Shibari. This is a centuries-old Japanese art form that involves tying knots, intricate knots and ties to create body sculptures, essentially, or sculptures out of bodies. And it's usually associated with BDSM and eroticism, but it's also a very spiritual and vulnerable practice. And today, our guest is an expert in Shibari, and we wanted to welcome Rina Trevi.
Welcome. Thanks for coming on.
I'm happy to be here, and I loved your description of Shibari.
Oh, good. Oh my God, I'm so glad I hope that I got it right. We were here to learn, really. Yeah. I mean, we looked it up a bit and looked at your profile. It's super impressive and wanted to learn more.
What do you love about Shibari?
I love the simplicity of rope itself and how you can take it into so many different directions. Like you just mentioned that it can be healing and spiritual, but you can also take it in a direction of eroticism, make it more intimate and sexy, or you can make it more artistic if you want to make beautiful ties and beautiful knots and beautiful people in it. So yeah, that's the part that I love so much, how it follows your intention.
What type of person comes to you?
Different people. Let me see how I can generalize it. I feel like the quality of curiosity and self-exploration is what unites people who are into exploring Shibari. People who have this kind of urge and drive to just discover something about themselves that they didn't know about themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So what do people tend to discover about themselves?
They discover more tender places, something more soft, something more sweet, feminine, different emotions that they didn't encounter in themselves before. They gain certain insights about themselves, certain kind of aha moments, something they didn't get to understand before, some kind of breakthroughs, experiences of understanding, reconciling some kind of life story or some kind of dream.
Interesting. Yeah. How do you suppose it does that? Because some people are just looking in, they're just saying, wow, this person's tied up really tight. If for someone looking in, they're like, wow, that's
kind of almost intimidating or scary, experience to feel like you can't, even though you can't escape, I guess. But that's the point.
That's the point, that it actually provokes people in different way. Just looking at it creates some kind of sense, makes you kind of stop, get out of your mind, because something just happens, it just touches you somewhere, and it just touches us in a different way. Some people oh, I want to be there. Others oh, no, really a lot of fear. So it can be all kinds of reactions, and that's why the outcome can be so different as well. For some people, tying can be soft and sensual. Everything feels amazing. Just leave me tied up for a while. I'm so happy here. For others, it's really an ordeal. They're really overcoming some deepest struggles and fears. So, and that's what I love about it. It's it doesn't get bored, and everybody finds what they're looking for ultimately in it.
And this is what you do for a living, right?
Yes.
So people reach out to you and book with you. I know you also, serve people all around the world. You're always traveling. You just got back from Japan, right?
Yeah,
and Thailand?
Actually in Japan I was improving my skills. I was visiting a Japanese Shibari master.
Oh, nice. So where did you learn Shibari?
I started in Thailand, and I kept on learning. It's an ongoing process. Mm-hmm. There are different masters here and there, so I'd like to visit different teachers and learn something new from them.
Did you plan on learning it when you went into it, or did you just date a guy and was wow, this is awesome?
No, it's a long story. It started from my dominatrix career. I was a dominatrix in the past.
Where were you a dominatrix?
In New York City.
New York, a dominatrix in New York City.
Classic, right?
That's a lot of
How
fun.
more classic can it get? But it was really the Wall Street kind of guys.
You have the strict Russian accent, just telling the boys what to do. They probably loved you.
But you were saying they were the Wall Street guys, right?
Yeah, a classic kind of New York City theme, powerful guys who have it all, can tell everyone what to do, and they needed to experience how to be powerless. And they would see me to get humbled in so many ways, humiliation, torture.
What's an example of humiliation, torture? What would you do to some of these Wall Street guys?
like face slapping, hair pulling, calling them certain humiliating names, putting them on their knees, like on a leash collar, getting them cross-dressed into like lingerie, pink lingerie, and things like that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so you started that way and then decided that you
Then I
wanted
got
to...
burned out. Yeah.
That's a lot of work. I hope you're paid well.
No,
Well, it's Wall Street, so you probably were paid very well. So.
yeah, that was definitely addictive for me too. All this like sense of being surrounded by all the powerful men and money. But
They're just
then
groveling at you, yeah.
there was also something felt unhealthy about it. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't really ultimately taking people to good places. So it was more like searching for high. It's like a substitute for cocaine experience.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah, because Wall Street.
In a way, yeah, it's like Wall Street guys looking for a different type of drug. And I felt like I'm providing that high all the time, and they need more and more and more.
Do they get really like explicit with their requests? Like, you have to meet me at my job, and like, you need to do this, this, and this.
Sometimes,
or, like,
some requests would be really like precise about certain kind of fantasy exploration that is really peculiar. It has to be done exactly like that.
What was one of the most peculiar fantasies you've been asked?
Are you ready for that?
Oh,
yes. Well, there were some wild ones, but we did some public humiliation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where at? In New York City?
Yeah, well, New York is New York.
Yeah.
You can do many things, right? In the streets, you can just take things in quite extreme places.
Oh, cool. What happened?
Let's see how far I can share that.
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it.
But yeah, we were wild. Like things are getting wilder and wilder and wilder. That's kind of what happens. Like initially, people just, I want to be spanked, and then it's like, I have that kind of role play. Like, okay, what are we doing? Well, we're gonna go shopping now, like and lingerie shopping, and you will be asking me to get more lingerie, and then I tell you that, wow, you're asking me for too much, so you will slap me and spit on me in front of the sales lady, and then I will be on the knees, and I will be handing the credit card, please spend my money, and you will be doubting whether I even deserve to be there, so things like that. So
Wow.
And they came up with that?
Some things they want me to be creative, so they give me like an overall idea. It has to be feminization, public humiliation, and you come up with scenario. But some of them have this peculiar, like, I want to have my balls kicked with with like a Converse shoes. Like,
Converse.
Yeah, and I was like from Russia, like, what's the big deal? Why not Nike? Like, well, it has to be Converse. Okay, what to do? You just go and buy like Converse shoes. So,
I feel like that's there is that kind of stereotype of the man, Wall Street man, needing to like relax, let go. But you also serve a lot of women, and you specifically
now,
especially now, like working with like yoni massage and all of these other things that you're working in. What kind of, because I feel like women were allowed to be vulnerable, I guess, in society, right? And we're allowed to kind of be in that submissive position, I guess. So how do you find that, like, what kind of women are coming to you, or like, is that something that what way are women not really allowed to be vulnerable? Well,
it's a bit different story now because once I shifted into Shibari, things have shifted really.
Right.
Because my play became more intentional, like it was less like to get high, get off kind of experience, but it was more like intentionally seeking to overcome something, discover something in yourself. It became more like subtle, more artistic, more spiritual, more healing. So it started to attract different people. Like a lot of Wall Street guys no longer could relate to me. Like, what the hell is this? Like, I don't understand. Like, I just want my balls kicked in.
I don't want to work through my trauma. Just step on my dick.
That's kind of that. And then I just got bored and burned out because I started to feel like it's not taking us in the right direction. And then I announced, like, finally, like, well, I want to change. I want a different type of interactions with people. I want to take things deeper. I want to make things more holistic, therapeutic, more meditative. It was my spiritual path for years that took me here. So once I announced Shibari, this is when people started to come with different intentions. Shibari has a bit different kind of background, different atmosphere. It's like jute, natural rope, bamboos, like very like different aesthetics, like kimonos and tatami mats, being barefoot, as opposed to like latex and leather and torture devices and like dungeons. So it's really different. And women started to come to it because women, what's a good question? What's the difference between men and women in Shibari exploration? Well, women these days, the kind of women that are coming to me are women who are too much in the kind of like with too much drive to achieve something, to get things done, like very alpha kind of women.
I relate to that a bit.
A lot of like alpha women, like overachievers, like the ones who are really like busy business owners, like they're very common, but also just generally women who are looking for some sort of inspiration or breakthrough, like artistic women who are already in the world of healing and arts. And in this world, you are constantly looking for that muse, for that connection, for that like aspect of yourself that you want to uncover, discover, so it can take you even further. So it's a more subtle, more artistic way, I would say. But yeah, women generally do need to get vulnerable and lose control just like a man, because that's the trend of society, to get busy, to control too much, to have a big to-do list, to not have a day off, to not give yourself a day just to do nothing and relax.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so needed.
Totally. It's just the way culture has shifted.
Exactly.
And so do you find that with a client, do you take them through multiple sessions typically, through like over a whole year, for example, or is it something where it's like a one-time kind of course or experience where they overcome something?
Yeah, so it's generally a one-time experience, but it's a longer container. It's a coaching container, and we start like a few days in advance by having a call, and I give them intake form, ask them lots of questions, which already experience on its own because it makes you really think about yourself. Then we talk and we set intention, we discuss boundaries, because boundaries and consent is huge here. And it's a big problem for many people. Many people are not able to speak their boundaries, like not able to say no. So we can work on that as well if that's the problem. And then we meet for a session. And in session, we are having about 3 hours of journey in ropes, changing position, shifting, moving, flowing, and then some aftercare time, and the following days, integration and debrief, where we discuss what it all meant for them, like how they want to integrate it into their daily life. So generally it's like ceremonial experience where you have like a journey, and then you need to bring these insights into your life, and then only later it's good to come for another one. So I would say healthy, it's like every 6 months to have Shibari journey. That feels like right. I don't want people to come to me all the time, because then it might be a sign like they're chasing some high again.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I want this to be like a really extraordinary experience that they can really feel the afterglow for a while.
Yeah, because there's something called like I understand what you're saying with that, and it's like how when people read a lot of self-help books, eventually you have to put that into action. So like when they come through and they have a breakthrough, they're not necessarily working on what they came with like working out that breakthrough. They just want to come back and feel that breakthrough again. So it's kind of called like mental masturbation when you keep reading all these self-help books and not doing anything about it.
That's a good parallel.
That's cool. So after they have that experience, I feel like that's even something like ayahuasca ceremonies and that kind of thing, where it's like you just need that debrief and integration time. I bet there's a lot, or do you find that there's a lot of other coaches that do that integration piece that you do?
It's becoming trendy, thank God. And Austin is a great place. That's one reason I'm here.
Right.
Because people are taking those journeys more seriously. Because before I was in New York and I was involved in psychedelic explorations and BDSM play, and people would just like, yeah, let's just go for it, let's do it, it's awesome, it's so cool, but there wouldn't be that mindfulness aspect and integration piece. And I found Austin is really different. There are people who are taking it seriously with respect. They treat it like with a lot of care, and they have some support. So I cannot be the only person who provides them with integration support. I can just give a small guidance afterwards. But most people have like coach, therapist, shaman, healer, or a community that can support them through that. So I think it's really important. I think the main work really happens afterwards.
Right. What was one of the biggest transformations that you've seen?
Right away, this guy comes to my mind. He comes from a military background and a lot of conditioning, a lot of like post-traumatic stress disorder in his body. So the main request he came with is that he cannot trust women to hold him. So he came with his wife, and his wife couldn't even hug him from behind. Like, just she wanted to embrace him, and he would like instantly want to get and defend himself. So he came with this idea, like, I want to learn how to trust, but I cannot believe that I will let you tie me up. And he's like really big, strong guy, and like you could tell, like military, powerful. This kind of personality is there, but he has a trouble letting go and surrendering and trusting others and receiving from others, because obviously if you cannot let go and surrender and trust others, you cannot receive from others, right? Then you have to be constantly the one in control, the one doing all the work. So he wanted to learn how to receive, how to trust. And that was the journey. It was really beautiful. His wife was present in the room. His healer was with us. So it's nice when we can have some support group of trusted people. And it was just the first moment that we went through that, because like just holding his hand and like, I'm about to tie your hand. It's about to happen. Like not even tying hand to something, just rope around the hand itself. And like he had that moment of choice. Like he was like, is it going to happen? And I just hold him. I don't rush him. I don't push him. We just sit with it and we wait and we wait. And then his body like, okay, I'm willing to give it a try. And we go for it, and we go, and we go. And we had like whole body tied up. We had all kinds of emotional release, like raging, crying, like feeling certain things. And then afterwards he shared like it's changed. And his wife was really grateful to me actually, because then she was able to hug him, to hold him, to like do all kinds of things with him. Yeah.
That's incredible.
That was a really beautiful example, but of course it's not just me and ropes that do the magic. He came quite determined and he had support. So it's like a really holistic experience in a way. I don't want to take credit that I have those superpowers. And it's not rope, because rope can also be damaging. It can traumatize someone if it's done in the wrong way. It can physically cause some injuries. So it's a very, just like psychedelics and drugs, they can take people in really bad places and can take people to nice places.
Yeah, like have you ever had somebody like tie a knot that you can't untie or something, like where people are stuck? Does that ever happen?
Yeah, when you first started out, were there a couple of accidents?
I did some mistakes for sure, but I had scissors with me anyway.
Yeah, you just got it and then you're good and then they're fine. Oh my God.
It happens. Yeah, when you're learning, like all kinds of funny and dangerous situations happens. That's the path. It's not the kind of like soft and fluffy path. Like it's really humbling for me as a practitioner to see my limitations, how I can screw things up, but it's also nice to see that with persistence, it's improving. So
and
now,
how many years now have you been doing it?
Well, it's hard to say because the transition was so gradual. Like it wasn't that I'm quitting doming and I'm only doing Shibari. No, Shibari started to come into my doming sessions. And I started to make it more about rituals, breath work, and slowly, some clients that no longer could fit were gone and like new clients started to come in. So I'd say like 5 years of Shibari practicing regularly. Now I have students. I teach workshops for couples and for people who are interested in Shibari and healing as well. And it's great. I'm watching them and I'm watching them like screw things up all the time, just like I did when I was just learning all this. So it's a process, and it's a humbling and exciting process at the same time. Yeah.
Is it always suspension involved or no? No, that's like a special thing.
Yes, suspension is not for everyone, and it's also technically more difficult, more dangerous physically. Things can go wrong more easily. So I try not to go there unless we really need to, really want to. I do performances, so when it comes to performances, we usually do suspension.
Oh, you perform?
Yeah, I do Shibari theatrical performances, which are theatrical, which means that we have certain kind of underlying theme playing out. So it's not so much about making it technically perfect and make people look technical things, but we are sharing certain feeling underneath it, certain emotions, certain kind of forbidden feelings.
And you do that in Austin?
Yeah, I do it from time to time in different places, different events. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, when you you can ask.
Oh, sorry. So what's dating like? Do you have a partner?
No, I have friends, lovers, but not like partner.
So how do you introduce it to someone that you're dating?
I'm just open from the beginning. I know that some people of unusual professions like this feel a bit insecure, but I just feel like it's been part of me for so long, so I just cannot separate it from myself. So I just share right away. These are the things that I do, but I also want them to see my humanness. because so many people put me on pedestal like a badass woman, like too cool to date a normal guy. But I feel like it's important that people see that I'm first of all just another human being with all kinds of issues and desires and longings and insecurities. And then comes my profession, which of course comes with some side effects, such as sometimes feeling like overwhelmed, tired, like needing more cuddles. I feel like that's the side effect of my work.
Oh, right.
Well, because I imagine it'd be like, do you know how like if you were dating like a masseuse and they come home from work and you're like, oh, like I really like a massage, but she was like being a masseuse all day.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I definitely don't want to tie people up all the time. Yeah, it's definitely
like, you're
not
just like, we're spooning on the couch and that's it.
Exactly. It's like I definitely don't want to be a coach and a healer and a person who is regularly tying in my personal life, but I also don't mind. I also want to do it for fun. It's a bit different than doing it at work. For fun, it's great. I get to explore some new edges, new things. And of course, it's like about intimacy and connection with my loved one. So I would imagine like with my permanent partner, one day I will be able to practice an exchange and not just me tying. I also want to be tied up. I also want to receive.
And hang from the ceiling together.
Yeah, why not? It's fun to explore, but I don't want this to be our identity. It's not something I want to do all the time. I also want something more soft and simple, some different styles. I'm all for sexual variety in general.
Well, we all met at a women's group, a women's in business group, because that's where I like to hang out.
Avi was helping film my stuff for content.
But I remember you're also telling that you specialize in Neri massage?
Yoni
massage.
And that it's been like sorry.
Yeah, you were saying that I'm having a tough time with it because I try to promote it on social media, but then I get flagged for it.
Yeah, get banned.
So can you tell me, like, you've been getting flagged for it? What do they flag you for?
The word yoni is already forbidden. It's crazy.
The word is forbidden.
It's that word already presumes that you're doing some sex work. And
can you explain to us, like, for those that don't know, like, what yoni is?
Yeah, it's a Sanskrit word for sacred temple or vagina.
Yeah.
It's like we think that it's a soft word that doesn't have so much charge or connection, but at the same time it's becoming this word that is already flagged and banned. So I'm trying to find a new word now.
Because you must have that trouble with like advertising your business. That's what you were mentioning, is that you have that kind of like hard. But right now, is it more like word of mouth, or you do have a beautiful social media account? You can actually show quite a bit.
I can show a bit.
Your photography is amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I share more like the healing and the coaching and the therapeutical aspects, and that's what's helpful. I think if you are really going too much towards sexuality, it's not. And I also don't want to be sexualized too much. I think I had enough of that when I was a pro-dom, like constantly being fetishized, desired. It's really heavy on me as a woman. So I realized that now I want to more connect on a deeper level. So sexuality is great, but I don't want this to be everything. I want this to be just one part of some bigger experience that can have so much more to offer.
But you were saying that when we were talking about it, you were like, there's a lot of women that just like never get properly stimulated.
That's what you told me.
Right?
You're like, yeah, there's a lot of guys that don't know how to properly stimulate their women. And then you look at me and you're like, no offense.
No offense.
I remember now this moment. But it's true. There is no education. It's hard. Like, where do men learn all those things from? Exactly. They're lucky if they get some good resource of learning, but otherwise they just watch porn or they just like see it in a movie. I don't know. Like, how else do you know? You just follow whatever education you have, but education is so limited. And I think it goes both ways. There's so much we can learn about each other, and that's why tantric sexuality is something I'm really fascinated about. Just like kink and BDSM for me, it's really mind-blowing because it adds so much variety. Otherwise, it's just monotonous, and no wonder most of couples, after living together for a long time, they just lose interest and they have sex once a month because there is not much to do. It's just the same stimulation, the same positions, the same everything. While Tantra, BDSM, kink, all of that has a lot of beauty and variety to offer. And yoni massage is more about understanding yourself, connecting to yourself, being massaged, being worshipped, being touched, me sharing a yoni map with a woman, like, hey, this is your G-spot. How does this feel? This is your cervix. This is your K-spot. A spot, P spot, so women start to recognize like
So
different
wait,
places.
so there's an A. So there's more than one letter in there.
Oh no, poor Alfie. But yeah, but it was like, but that makes sense too, though, that women also aren't even aware of their own bodies.
Exactly.
That's a good
How can
point
we
to
expect
bring
the
up.
men to know this
Yes.
about us if we don't know this about ourselves? But
Yes.
once we start knowing this about ourselves, it's so much easier to communicate and connect with the partner. Like to start with, you can just be in a position on top of him, and then you can be the one to rule the show. You can really feel like, oh, now I'm touched in my cervix. Great. I want it to be touched that deep, that fast, that slow.
Yeah.
And men can be more relaxed and they can last longer. So there are like lots of ideas and tricks how to make this work in so much more beautiful way. And of course, it's possible to communicate to men like, oh, when you touch me like this is exactly where I like it. When you touch me here, I feel a bit tender, so please be easy on that spot. So it's the communication that makes a huge difference.
After they've explored.
But first, know yourself, and that's what I'm introducing, because yoni massages, it's not something you want to do all the time. It's also like ceremonial experience that once you receive, you better digest it. You better take your time to explore yourself, learn to touch yourself. So it's not a superficial kind of getting off masturbation, but actually it's a whole ritual that you can love yourself so much deeper, where you can touch yourself more intentionally, and then you can share it with your partner, and then he can learn as well. It's really beautiful.
So cool. Is there any advice? I mean, before we end too, make sure you follow Rina Trevi on her Instagram. We'll put it below. Is there anything else you'd want people to follow you on?
That's
the best one.
Yeah.
And
vulnerabilitycoaching.com is my
Oh, yeah.
website. So it describes all the services that I just shared here.
And
Cool.
what,
We'll put a
as
link in the
one-
bio.
Yeah, we will. And as one kind of last thing to leave everyone with, what piece of advice would you share for an individual or even a couple that's struggling to like let go?
That's struggling to let go. Well, if they recognize that it's something they want and they are struggling, I would say start from taking time to slow down. Like, you cannot let go if you're in a hurry and getting things done all the time. But if you really give yourself space, like this is the day when we are doing nothing and we want to just really let go and let's see what happens. And you'd be surprised how just by slowing down and giving space and time, it just unfolds naturally, because that's what our body is ultimately looking for. This is what our psyche, that's our unconscious mind really wants. Like, hey, we want to have time and space to really let go. And it just happens by itself. There is nothing to do. It's just intention, time and space. That's it. Just give yourself a day just to chill, relax, without any purpose. Like, not the purpose to have the wild orgasm, not the purpose to have deepest intimacy. Remove that. Just give yourself space and time and surrender to that day, and the day will bring its own magic.
That's great advice.
Yeah, well said.
I feel like people put pressure on themselves to, to
Oh,
have that.
you cannot believe me how many women come to me for yoni massage. I ask, what is your intention? It's like, oh, well, I want to be able to have a deepest orgasm in 10 minutes. Why 10 minutes?
That's quite the goal.
Well, that's how long my partner lasts.
That's perfect. Oh my God. Thank you so much for coming on
Yeah,
today.
that's awesome.
This was
Thank
the
you.
best. Yeah. It's such a cool, we're just so interested in people that have lead like a lifestyle that's so unique in your own. Like, you're building this lifestyle and this career, really. And it's just so cool to see. I'm really glad we met.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming
lovely
on.
lovely to connect. It was beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, I love the laughter in the background.